Hi guys, I'm Sam and welcome back to the Unity of Life. Okay, so in the last video we talked about the roles in which animals play in human societies, and one of the things that we mentioned was working animals. And we mentioned training, and I told you that I had helped train an assistance dog, and it was actually part of my college work. His name was Vinny, and I said I was going to go into a little bit more detail about what I did with Vinny. Okay, so we're going to be talking about an animal training plan. Okay, so you can use the basics and the layout for any animal, but you've got to remember when you're doing a plan like this to remember the species and the breed that you're working with, because you will have to change things ever so slightly for that particular animal. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so the introduction to this is so I decided for my training project way back in college, which I graduated 3 years ago now. I think this was about 3 years ago. I decided my training project that would be on my family friend's assistance dog, Finny, because I have a great interest in dogs in general, and like I said, specifically bulls, and helping you lot to train your animals in the best possible way. Even helping you if you're looking for a puppy or a kitten. I'm going to try and help you find that perfect pet for you and talk you through all the things you need to do in order to find one in later videos. So keep an eye out for that. So we've mentioned, I mentioned last video about his family friend, so let's just recap on this. So Sue had only had Vinny for 6 months at this point, so she hadn't really had him all that long, and he was 2. He was 2 years old. Okay, so it was still a very new partnership. They were still getting used to each other. So she received Vinny from Canine Partners when her last assistance dog, Quizzy, became ill and had to retire because with her being a pedigree, she had back problems because she had to jump up onto her back paws to help Sue put like lights and things like that. Unfortunately, Quizzy has now died, which was absolutely devastating. When they get retired, I should say, they get adopted off to a new home. So she was quite happy in her last days, even though they didn't have her very long. And just a little bit of a recap. Vinny, as mentioned, he was this golden retriever cross with a Labrador. And sorry, it says he was 3 years old, not 2. I thought he was only 2. I think he was 2 when she got him, because she got him in the October, and then he turned 3 in the February. So yeah, this was after that. So let's do a summary of this training program and what we're going to do, what I did and what I achieved. We actually achieved a lot more than what I was planning on training him to do. So the task that I was going to train him to do was this simple. I had this discussion with Sue, his partner, to see whether or not what I could do with him that was going to be beneficial to her and help her. Okay, so we decided that we would train him to get a toy, because her last canine partner, Quizzy, all these toys have got names. So for example, Sheep, that was the name that we used, it was a sheep's head, and he would go and get sheep. Okay, so they can't understand the words that you're saying, but they can understand the tone. So the toy, so that was one of his favourite toys as well, so that was really, really helpful, because he was really, really eager to get that toy. And he had gotten it just for Christmas, so it's still a pretty new toy. So when he got the toy, he needed to put the toy into the basket and bring the basket to me, because I was the one who was training him. Okay, so we decided to break this down into 3 simple steps. Step 1, right, was for him to identify and retrieve the toy. So we do this through clicker training and positive reinforcement. Before you would even do this, you would have to clicker load an animal. Okay, so what that means, animals love it, because you throw some treats on the floor, or you give them a treat. Yeah, You generally give them a treat, and you click and you give them a treat. You click and you give them a treat. You click and you give them a treat. And you just keep doing this, and you're like, good boy, good girl, when you give them the treat, and then they realise that this clicking sound means they're going to get something good. And that's what clicker loading is. So at this point, we didn't have to do this. We could skip this out because Vinny was already clicker loaded, because he had already been trained to do various things to be an assistance dog. He was initially meant to be a guide dog, so he had already had some training. Okay, so to identify and to retrieve the toy, what he needed to do, once he had got sheep and he knew what sheep was, he had to put sheep, so we put, to help him, to realise what sheep was, we put sheep and 2 other toys on the floor, and we'd ask Vinny to fetch sheep. But he already knew all his toys' names really, really well, so it was a little bit of a cheat. So I had to stand close to sheep until Vinny got a little bit more confidence, and then I could walk further away because he was really confident. It's like, this one's sheep, I know this is sheep, this is the one she wants. So you stand, because at one point you will have to stand and you will have to point to which one that you want, and then once they know, you do that for a few times, you start pointing and you start walking back further away until they can get sheep on their own. In this case. So as he gets closer, as Vinny got closer to the sheep, I'd press the clicker, say good boy, and I'd give him a treat. Because he thinks with his stomach, like most men apparently. And most Labradors. Not to sound sexist, but that apparently, the saying, a way to a man's heart is through his stomach. So he repeats this sequence 3 times in a 1 10-minute period. It's very important not to do too much in a day, because dogs will get either really, really overexcited and they can't function and work because they're so excited, or they just get tired and they get bored and fed up with doing the same thing over and over again, just like you and me. So 10 minutes a day is absolutely fine. You don't want to do anything over that. Okay. So there will be 3 to 6 10-minute sessions a day. So you spread that out a little bit. I know I said sometimes you may just do a 10-minute period a day. It all depends on the dog. But you can spread it out and have 3 to 6 10-minute periods during the day. So you do 10 minutes, stop, do something else. Do another 10 minutes, stop, do something else, etc. So Vinny is highly intelligent, and he really got it quickly. But he gets bored because he's so intelligent, and he gets really, really hyper, and that's when we have to stop, because he's just not going to do anything then. So repeating each period to ensure what Vinny has learnt has stuck in his head. That's why we repeat these things. So this session will only be 10 minutes long each time, as Vinny gets bored easily, like I've said, and it allows him to focus on the task every time, and eventually Vinny went straight to sheep when asked. So as Vinny got closer to achieving step 1, we increased the treat reward value, okay? So that's like saying we give you, for doing good, a tiny square of chocolate or whatever your favourite sweet is, and then a higher reward would be, for example, a whole bar of chocolate. You see, because you'd rather have the bar of chocolate than just that one square. For example, if you don't like chocolate, that's fine. Whatever your favourite sweet is, just insert the chocolate with that. Not for the dog. Okay, so so he would have, you'd have kibble, and then he'd have these garlic treats that I make that have tuna in them, or sausage and fish cake, or fish cake, something like that. So, and don't forget to increase the slight excitement in your voice. That's key, because they need to know that you've done something well, and you pat them and you stroke them and you show that you're really, really pleased with them. So if they've done something, you always go, "Oh, good boy," something like that. You can't just go, "Oh, good boy," because dogs pick up on their tones and they pick up on your reaction and your body language, and you're just like, good boy, because you're fed up. The dog's going to be fed up and they're not going to do it again. So if the dog comes, you start stroking them and petting them really, really fast. And you're like, oh, he's a good boy, he's a good boy. I know it's really annoying and irritating because you sound like you're talking to a baby, but that's what you need to do. Okay. So step 2 was to fetch sheep and drop sheep in the basket. Okay, so I had to start off by standing near the toy basket so he knew what the toy basket was and what it looked like. And then I'd ask Vinny to fetch the sheep to me. Okay, because I was where the basket was. And when and I'd click on when he brought the sheep to me. As I wouldn't sheep in step 1, but I was stood next to the basket at this point. So when the sheep is brought when it was brought to me, I would then ask Vinny to drop it. He knew what drop it meant. Okay, so we'd click up and Vinny dropped it as an award in step 1. Okay, so then we would practice repeating it for him to drop the toy in the basket, like we did in step 1. Always being positive all the time, giving clear, confident instructions. Another thing is when you're doing these training sessions, end on a high note. So if you think the dog's going to get bored and is going to get overexcitement, try to do it then once more. Try to get them to do it right that one more time and finish there. Because if the dog finishes on a good note, he's going to want to do it again. Okay, so should Vinny be really struggling, try stand near in the sheep and ask him. Then I had to ask him to fetch the sheep and give it to me and increase the distance the sheep is from getting him to drop it by 5 feet. And proceed into the basket slowly until he dropped it in the basket, because some animals aren't going to get things like that first time. So step 3, final step. Okay, and this was a bit tricky. And this was to get the handle of the basket and tug to me. Okay, so he's already been trained by canine partners to tug. Canine partners train them with certain responses, which they then expect the partners to go into training to learn what these responses are, and they send out a heck of a lot of paperwork that I have folded of the different commands, so you know what different commands are. It's really hard to remember, but you get that eventually when you're doing it every day. So as Vinny gets closer to the basket handle, what I would then was click the clicker, give him a reward, like I did all the way back in step 1. So once Vinny has the handle in his mouth, click the clicker again, and reward him as I did in step 1, just so he knows that that's what he needs to do. He needs to put the basket handle in his mouth. Okay. And when he knows to put the handle in his mouth, you ask him to tug. Okay, so that means he's going to move the basket to us in short distances. You start off with short distances and you gradually increase the distance. So when he's tugging, he's pulling backwards. So you kind of do have to guide him because he can't see. So every time that he brings the basket, he brought the basket to me, I would then click and give a reward. Like step 1, it's really important to keep repeating that so that's in people's heads. Okay, so let's talk about whether or not this training was a success. Well, it was. Okay, so overall I think the training actually was a success. He didn't manage to get the sheep, he managed to put it in the basket, and he managed to put it right to me without much prompting, and we did exceed and go on to different harder challenges and tasks as well. So at the time, Vinny was recovering from an injury, and so was I. I had to go to casualty because I had lost a fight with a kitchen step and had badly bruised my toe. I still to this day think it was fractured. And I couldn't walk and I couldn't put a shoe on. It was ridiculous, and poor Vinny had taken the skin off of his stopper pads, which he does quite a lot because he runs really, really fast and he forgets that there's like a wall or there's a door because he's a bit numb sometimes, even though he's really intelligent, and he will just stop and put the brakes on, and he does take the skin off of his paw pads quite a bit. He's really notorious for that. So why the training program might not have been a success? Well, why it was a success in my case. So I believe the training was a success, as Vinny is naturally highly intelligent and he's very eager to learn new things, and I cheated a bit because he was already being trained. So he treated this one task with those 3 steps: identifying sheep, putting sheep in the basket, and bringing the basket to me in only 3 days. 3 days. That's incredible. And he did well on when we returned to this, because we didn't do it for a little while, then we returned to it. He did really good at that. And he was able to repeat this task 6 weeks later without any problems, and that's without not doing the task constantly. What I also think that helped is that I had been doing a placement over at Susan. I had been building a bond up with Vinny by training him to do multiple of different things to help with Sue, and that really did strengthen the bond between me and Vinny, because if you watched my last video, you would have heard me saying that when I'm around or I'm looking after him, I have this ginormous whopping shadow. He actually sleeps on my bed. He's like 5 foot in length. I'm 5 foot tall, and we share a single bed. It's ridiculous. He's a good job. I love that dude. He's got those big suppy eyes. You can't really say no. So there's a number of learning points for me from training, because this is the first time I actually really trained a dog. And we also decided that we're going to try and help him put cans of soup into a shopping basket and bring the basket to us when he was going shopping, but he didn't do so well with that. It was a different basket, and we never really got to the shops to help him really learn and get that in, and he didn't really like the feel of a can in his mouth, so we didn't push it. So what modifications were needed and how these were fitted into this training program? Well, Vinny did so well and he excelled very quickly. So one thing he needed to be able to do with Sue was help her with her shopping, and that was to do with the can of soup. So we did start trying to get the can of soup off the table into a shopping basket, but like I said, he did not like the can in his mouth, so he never succeeded at that. What he has succeeded is in retrieving his jacket and his lead from a basket in the kitchen. He did great on that. However, it's not in the basket anymore, it's on a hook, so he doesn't need to do that anymore. However, when he gets bored and the lead's on him, he will put the lead in his mouth and he will physically take it to him, because he's frustrated and waiting to go out. So yeah, that was pretty much a training plan, well, the basics. Okay, so you can use this for any animal, like I said, and all you need to do is just think about the animal that you're using and the breed and the things that it needs, okay, because every animal's different. But if it's your pet, you know their likes, you know their dislikes, and you know what you're going to be able to achieve with them and what you're not going to be able to achieve with them. So that's all I have for the day. Please do not forget to subscribe. So click on my face, which is down here. Go on, you want to, because I see a lot of you view these videos, but I have more views than I have subscribers. So what's going on, guys? Come on, join the unity of life, join this family. It's going to be a great adventure that we're about to go on. The next video, or the previous video, will be up here. Click on it. You want to. And down here will be the playlist for the previous videos that are connected to this one. So what are you waiting for? Go and check that out. And I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.